Hurricane Florence has center stage as it strengthens and heads towards the Carolinas. I'm Mike Naso from the IPR 365 YouTube page with the latest on dangerous Florence, as well as Isaac, which is now headed for the Leeward Islands. We do have a hurricane watch from Modesto Beach, South Carolina to the North Carolina-Virginia border, including Albemarle and Pamlico Sounds. Right there in the middle of the screen is our dangerous Category 4 Hurricane Florence, which is much larger than it was yesterday, and you can see with this outflow pattern here in the ventilation, it is likely to cross some warmer waters and strengthen again today. Here's the latest as of 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Hurricane Florence. It was at 26.7 north, 65.3 west. Winds were 130 miles an hour. They were 140. It underwent an eye wall replacement cycle overnight, but that's not that good of news because it just expanded its wind field larger. It's moving west-northwest at 16, faster now, and that is expected to continue over the next 48 hours. However, by the time it makes landfall, probably Friday, it should be massively slowing down. And by Sunday, it's still here over North Carolina, which will create a very, very horrific flood potential. You can see it could be a little bit further north towards the Outer Banks or a little bit further south towards the Myrtle Beach area for direct landfall, but nevertheless, the impacts are going to be widespread and nasty. Here's a beautiful visible satellite imagery of this beast called Florence. You can see the new eye is much larger than before, and we're starting to see that convection bubble around it, so all systems seem go for more strengthening, and the hurricane center has this getting up to 150 miles per hour. And even though it is expected to start to weaken as it nears the coastline, it will likely still be a major hurricane, Category 3 or 4, and that is capable of very destructive winds at the coastline, very high storm surge, perhaps 10, 12 feet in certain areas of North and South Carolina, and of course, heavy rainfall. The slow movement is expected to prolong that flood threat. You can see the computer models take it into North Carolina and then kind of keep it around drifting westward as it gets blocked by ridging to the north and very weak steering currents, and so the ridging will push it in and then kind of keep it around, and that is why the flood threat is very real with this system, similar to Harvey in Texas last year, and we saw what happened there. Again, you can see the wind field has gotten larger and it could expand even more, which is why we have that hurricane watch up from the South Carolina coast all the way to Virginia. And again, look at that prolific track as it came as a tropical wave off Africa, moved west-northwest, became a Cat 4 hurricane, weakened dramatically, got shoved back west, and is now again a Category 4 taking aim at the Carolina coastline there. This is the European model, which you can see brings it in just south of Wilmington and keeps it around for a long time, right near Myrtle Beach, near Florence, ironically, Columbia, Augusta, right into Georgia, near Athens. That rainfall would just be raining and 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 raining. I'm not kidding. Look at this. This thing sticks around, and that is why there is such a serious flood threat. You can see this is the, what model is this? This is actually the GFS model, the newer GFS model. This is from tropicaltidbits.com. You can see it comes in, and just look at that. Very little motion as it sticks around North and South Carolina for days, raining like mad. How high can the rainfall amounts be? Well, right now, out of the Storm Prediction Center, up to 20 inches, maybe more, especially in areas of North Carolina, even up into Virginia. And the Weather Prediction Center is forecasting that through the next 7 days, we will have prolific rainfall over the Carolinas and Virginia. And that is why we might even see this shift towards the south if the models continue to show kind of a westward bend. We could have heavy rain even into Georgia. So a very serious flood threat, to say nothing of our tropical system coming into the Gulf, which could become a tropical storm in a few days and impact areas of Texas. Now, I did want to touch on Isaac. It is a tropical storm. It had been up to a hurricane. Still 70 miles an hour. It's at 14.6 north, 49.7 west, moving straight west at 16. and it is forecast to fluctuate close to hurricane strength and not necessarily be a hurricane as it comes into the Caribbean, but it's going to be close enough to where we have a hurricane watch now for Guadeloupe, Martinique, and Dominica, and a tropical storm watch for Antigua and Montserrat, because it will move through the Leeward Islands sometime Thursday, and then by the weekend be in the Caribbean. Now, where it goes from there, it's a little too early to tell. Some of the computer models are starting to hint that it might get drawn up by a weakness in the high pressure from Florence over the southeast, and we might have to deal with it in the Gulf of Mexico. But again, that'd be 6-7 days away, and it would be a tropical storm, certainly not a Category 4 hurricane like Florence is. So we have plenty of time to keep an eye on it, but nevertheless, another feature in the tropics. There you can see it looking a little bit better than yesterday, but still not quite a hurricane as it was. But it is moving faster towards the west, and we will see that impact in the islands in a few days. Of course, the main focus right here on the top of the screen is our strengthening Category 4 hurricane, Hurricane Florence. All residents of North and South Carolina and coastal areas should heed their local emergency managers and hear about where evacuations are taking place, and be ready, because Florence is going to be a devastating major hurricane at the coast and then a prolific flood threat once it moves inland. So we're going to be watching Florence the next couple of days. I'm Mike Naso. Stay tuned. We'll have more on Florence and eventually Isaac and our other system here in the Caribbean as the tropics are active with a Category 4 hurricane headed for the Carolinas this afternoon.